Tennessee State Representative Rick Staples is still with us. Thank you so much for your conversation in the first half of the show. You talked about certain action steps that we need to take as a people to move things forward, to move things beyond the protests. But are the protests one of the things, the key things that can help make a difference, that can help force change, in your opinion?
Well, as long as the conversation about the protest focuses on the protest themselves instead of what is firing the protest off, the reason for the protest. And there's been so many controlled, distractive conversations on focusing on the wrong things, especially the damage during these peaceful protests that's not done by the protesters. There are professional provocateurs that are coming in that are set, and our goal is to make these peaceful protests for change something that they're not, and that is to give these peaceful protests negative PR. So these professional provocateurs come in who are not Black and destroy businesses, historical things, and it takes away from the conversation. And that distraction from what's causing the rallies, the protests, is purposeful. And if we put more energy into what's the reasoning behind the protest, we could actually get something done. And not just one thing, because let me be clear, we're not going to tolerate the mindset, oh, we did this one thing for y'all, so y'all be happy. That's not going to be what the purpose of all of this is for.
We need
From here on out, we're
solutions,
trying to establish change.
Long-term solutions beyond just the one and done.
Lasting change. Yes, lasting change.
And it's interesting that you talk about the instigators, the folks that are turning this power of the protests, these power of the marches, turning that to a negative. There are some investigations going on to determine who in fact is behind all of that. I'm sure you're aware and probably seen examples of where the folks that are actually picketing are protecting the businesses, are standing there trying to keep folks from going in and looting. To your point, that the peaceful folks are there for the right reason, and we've got some bad apples in the bunch that are not.
True, and we have to understand these young people that are protesting, that are having these rallies, are very intelligent, and they actually want to focus their energy, their passion, their rage. They want to focus it in supporting change. It's up to us and the leadership to direct that towards something or give them a vehicle to focus that into. It could be positive conversations. Once again, I want to say that yes, I'm having positive conversations with whites that are professionals, that are other legislators that are having issues with their heart, that feel the pain. But you can take action if you're hurt, if you're white and you're hurt by these situations. When you're in the conversations that detract from Blacks, get from they're getting a promotion, once again, going back to they're getting a loan, a business opportunity, be the change agent in the room. They are in conversations and meetings that I'm not, somebody that looks like me, are not invited to. So they should take the opportunity to be the agent for change, because I can't see how anybody doesn't look out at these murders, that doesn't look out at these young people speaking out and begging you to hear and not be compelled to move. It amazes me that people I serve with, it amazes me that the administration didn't meet us at the door and say, what can we do? This is just not going to blow over. This isn't just happening right now. And if there's a mindset that if we just weather this storm, they'll go away, well, we're not going away. This rage is real.
The rage is real, the fear is real, the frustration is real, and to your point, it's coming from all sides. I know you are aware of recent comments by James Mattis, esteemed Marine general, who was actually Trump's Secretary of Defense before resigning in December 2018. He said, and I want to make sure I read his quote, "Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. This is from General Mattis. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years of deliberate effort. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years without mature leadership. What will it take, Representative Staples, as far as leadership is concerned, to really address what's going on and get us going in the right direction?
It starts with proper leadership. The executive branch at the federal, state, and local level sets the tone because they are in concert with the legislators that make the policy and the laws. And if your tone is of such that you're not trying to breed peace and bridge understanding, and the most offensive thing is that a lot of these people that represent an executive branch, not to offend anyone, consider themselves Christian. And the last time I read Galatians 5:14 reads, "For the whole law is fulfilled in one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." And right now, so many of your neighbors are hurting. Their children are in fear. Their family members are being murdered. And so what is your modus operandi? What is your long-term goal for these citizens? The people in Tennessee that march on the Capitol, these in the big four cities especially, these rallies are coming from tax-paying citizens, or at least their children. So how can you ignore the voice of so many collected Tennesseans like this and not try to initiate any action steps?
The past president, Barack Obama, even said there is a change in mindset taking place, that we can do better. And he pointed out, to your point, that young people have the power and the talent to make change. We are seeing younger and younger folks out who are leading this charge. And this is not anything new. You know, when we talked about the importance of protecting the environment, there were young voices there. When we were dealing with school shootings in different states, there were young voices who were there at the forefront with their signs, marching down the street, making people pay attention. Yet again, in this situation where we've had this horrible incident in Minneapolis, we have folks, young people, who are doing their due diligence to try to do the right thing. What is the power of the young voice, the young face out there during this time?
It's an indictment against the policies and laws in place because these are young people speaking to old wounds. The rage, the passion, the hurt that these young people are expressing based on the abuse, the murders, and the lack of respectability and opportunities that they're given are the same woes and cries that Blacks have had in this country going back after Reconstruction failed. If anyone out there is a student of history, look at what these young people are saying. Listen to them, watch their movements, and you can go back and read, and you will see we're just repeating ourselves. So that goes to show that there's a systematic mode of hatred and vilification of Blacks that is still in place, that we're going to have to come from outside closed doors and really be intentional about changing some things, not just having private conversations. And then, too, we have to encourage people to go to the polls. You and I were talking. This last presidential election, 46% of Americans that normally vote did not vote. And that speaks to leadership at the top level that I hope people will go to the polls. And then not only that, as we look at moving forward with African Americans having a voice, as you know, at the local, state, and federal level, African Americans have always represented the most poor areas, but have remained the voice for African Americans through representation at those different levels of elections and service. But because of gentrification taking place, African Americans are losing numbers within areas that was designed for them to have representation. And that's a form of suppression against Blacks as well, because those Black elected officials cannot move to other areas of whatever city or county that they live in, because those other areas are completely majority white, and there's no blacks there. So there's systematic racism again, not only taking away your voice at the elected level, suppressing your vote. And then Tennessee, for instance, is still less than 1% in doing business with minority-owned vendors. So there's that economic piece again that we talked about, pain.
Thank you
And
so
old
much,
hurts
Representative
that still exist
Steeples. I
today.
appreciate your time and your talent, and thank you all for joining us. We will see you again next time.